Okay. Here we go. Well, the troopers are still here, so thank you. Most of the presenters left, but this is a recap. I really did not see the presentations before, and I was trying to kind of take a bigger look. This is this graphics here really looks at a master plan blueprint from whether call it biosolids or wastewater. And you start from, you set the framework, you establish the driver, collect and analyze data. So you start actually building knowledge of the situation we're trying to plan for. And then once you build the knowledge, right at the middle of the diamond here, then we start zooming into the solution to hit the target. And throughout the process, you would want to use, and we've seen a lot, the expert panels, sustainability, with the quadruple bottom line, or multi-criteria, direct partnerships, stakeholders is very important, and the workshop and meetings. So that's really, it's a blueprint, and we've seen most of the master plans that we're talking about throughout the day followed more or less this schematic. So the master planning framework, it's really interesting. Josh, who left, took the one basically master plan that talked specifically about the vision statement. There was a vision statement, or an objective statement that basically sets the boundaries. It's very important to have that vision statement and establish it from the beginning. It sets the framework. It basically put the vision where they want to be on 20 years, 30 years. Some will want to be 50 years from now. We've seen master plans. And the framework really is looking, you've seen throughout the whole presentation as we said in the morning and the case studies, the drivers and the objective. To look at all the drivers, they're not the same drivers. So you have to weigh those drivers, as stakeholders, the operations, the management. And again, it's very important to identify the stakeholders. You cannot basically undermine, or ignore the feedback or their importance in the process. A very important thing that I think is very important in the success of a master plan, as you can see, mainly from Mary's presentation, is that you have to be disciplined in communication and documentation. That's very important to get that communication flowing both ways, from with the stakeholders, with the public, and again, use as an outside expert panel and a third party really helps yourself when you defend the plan. So I'm going to go through most of these and spend maybe like 5 minutes. I won't be boring you with another presentation. This slide kind of looks at all the drivers, and if you can see, like most of the drivers, a lot of times they don't jive well. They're not in the same direction. They might be always pull in different directions, and that is, the objective of a plan is to really make sure that that you cater to all the drivers, but yet you help them to move within the direction that you need to be. Stakeholders again cannot stress this more, that you need to identify the stakeholders and be more involved. They needed mainly to publicly able to defend the plans. You don't want to come in the end and find someone say, okay, how did we come up with this plan? What led us to? You want, again, all the time to be engaging. Regular meetings and presenting results and obtain feedback. That's very important through workshops internally and with the public. And don't really underestimate their feedback. And I have some case studies that I've seen and I was involved with. If the stakeholders were not properly engaged throughout the master plan, the process, they have the tendency to shut, and they were able in certain cases shut down the process and really literally I don't want to call wasted, but it was a waste, of a 2-3 year worth of work. There's a case that I was involved in personally as a third party moved in, and the plan at the time did not really engage, the stakeholders, and two stakeholders were retired at the time, chemical engineers, and they were able to really kind of shut down the project because there was a lot of miscommunication and there was not good documentation of the master plan. And that's the gasification process that was in Stamford, Connecticut, that I was involved in.
Not directly involved with the project or without a stake in that.
No, what I'm saying is for the expert panel.
Right.
The blue ribbon panel.
Well, and I'm not sure what you mean by the blue ribbon.
Okay, let me explain the blue ribbon panel. You have a consultant that, like all what you heard here, today, doing whether HDR, Hazen, CDM, whoever, will basically help guide you through that. An expert panel is really, it's a group of people outside that would be, let's say we're doing a project for Blue Plains. We would have somebody from Chicago, a large facility, somebody from San Francisco, and this person would be an expert panel. And I have this experience firsthand because I was that consultant who was managing this process, and you could tell that, and I'm being honest here, that other consultants were pulling in directions that they favor their technology, and they're not involved in the process, but it's because ultimately it's kind of in the self-interest. But it's not the consultants who's actually doing the master plan. It's the consultant who are maybe outside an expert panel.
Well, and even then, it's the consultants that you want to have. They may have a self-interest in it, and they may bring other baggage. But that's where the knowledge resides.
But why would you think you need a consultant in the expert panel and another consultant doing the work? In my thinking, I mean, we can debate this. This is for debate. In my thinking, if, for example, Alexandria is doing something, they would want to look at a utility that almost that's in the same boat, who has gone through a similar situation or have similar drivers, and have them advise them where the directions is going to be. In my mind, that is where they're going to get more benefit into how to set the future and the direction of the master plan, rather than having 3-4 consultants sitting in a room and literally to some extent catering to themselves. I'm being honest about it, but it's a utilities decision. That's my thinking. It's a utilities decision who to decide who's their blue ribbon panel is. Nobody can tell anybody what to do.
I just want to throw out a couple things that came to mind as you were giving your presentation, Mo. One was that I was surprised how frequently cost was not the prime driver, but operability and reliability was highly valued and maybe superior, because I guess that ties into compliance as well. And I thought that was interesting. And I'm not sure whether or not many people going into the master planning believe that that's where the balance would be, and sometimes the master planning doesn't really presume that low cost is going to drive the decision. Another one was there is a prejudgment on Class A, like, well, that's got to be primarily the direction we're going. And then when we sometimes see the result is that, well, Class B is working pretty darn well, so do we really need to go that far? And we know how to operate that. We're comfortable with it. That's another one, is that how much is the operator's comfort with the technology they already have help an agency's management drive a decision, even in the face of perhaps a disagreement among the consultants that are advising them, that they want them to go somewhere else. And another one was sort of interesting, and I'm just throwing out a couple that help provoke the conversation here, is do we actually use, just like in Cape May, the service companies as a starting point for helping agencies plan, like jump over the consultants perhaps a little bit and go right to the people who are going to be doing the work in concert with the agencies in distributing the biosolids, for helping them frame some of the issues around what are the costs and plausible options that are available to them in the time frame they want to accomplish. And that was something we heard a little bit about in a couple of the presentations. I thought that was the interesting thing that I hadn't really thought about. We have a question back here.
Yeah, cost is not an issue for this master plan that are here because of region. You've got a little bit south, last thing is so cheap.
Yeah.
They don't have to do it.
It's true.
And so most of the time the plants are so small that it makes sense not to send the landfill, close to the site.
Goes with
Places
geography.
in between North Carolina, for example,
That's a very good point.
landfills are closing, they're endorsed biosolids, almost without any, telling them.
That's a trigger, I guess, huh? Landfill closures?
But still, you do most analysis and the baseline is nothing, it's a lot cheaper.
That's really true. You look at certain utilities. Look at you right, South Carolina. I mean, you still talking landfill, not even Class B, is $35 a ton. Ohio, certain places it's the same, 32, 33. So, and with the price of electricity, and natural gas now, why even energy recovery from the biosolids? It's just you got to weigh all those. So producing a Class A and then take it to the landfill, just something.
Some people do that.
Some people may do that.
That's part of why we're here, right? I mean, if it was just cost, then we'd still be dumping it in the ocean and the river right out back here. So that's part of why we're here, right? To
Yeah.
prove that that's not necessarily the best thing to do. I mean, as simple as that sounds, that's a large part of when you pay a consultant, you're asking for knowledge that you don't have. You know that it's cheap enough to dump it in the water. You're asking, why should I not dump it in the water, right?
I agree.
I mean, that's why we're all here.
Yeah, the hardest master plan that I would think for a consultant is the master plan where the client knows where they want to be, and they just basically direct the consultant to do that. That's tough. And I've been in
That
this
happens?
situation. I've been in
Oh
this
my God,
situation.
no.
It's really tough. So
Does it ever happen that the consultant knows exactly what the answer is and tries to drive the? Does that happen too?
You know what? Here's how it happens, and sometimes a lot of time a consultant is basically would do reconnaissance with the utility what they want, and some would basically cater to that, and some utilities like that, others don't, because they don't want you to regurgitate what they tell you. They are interested in what you think, rather than what you heard from them and translated into paper. So it's a philosophy of consulting. You don't want to be yes ma'am. Condoleezza Rice was a yes ma'am.
Oh, you are so nasty.
But anyway, you as a consultant, you're supposed to tell your opinion, and that's what they hire you for. And the decision is their decision. You're not to decide. As a consultant, we don't make decisions. We make recommendations, and knowledge for utilities to make the decision. And you hire us to tell you, or to guide you through that decision process. So, isn't that the definition of consulting?
Do you find some of your clients are less engaged than others in terms of what they're?
We have one client was less engaged. I believe it's a cultural thing. It's I was working with Hawaii, and me and Terry Gus, we were doing a plan with Hawaii, and we would sit in a workshop and we would give the presentation, and it was supposed to be a workshop that's very engaging, and it was like after half an hour, you're like, any questions? No. It's like we would have to kind of stir the pot in order to get a question or feedback back, from them. Terry, right? Am I? Yeah. So there are some utilities or clients who are really, they just trust you. Okay, you tell me what I want to do, and I'll do it. And that's that. There are some like that, and there's others very well opinionated, and they want to drive, the bus. So you got to manage, in the master plan, both both sides.
I was surprised also at no matter how complex the matrices are and the evaluation and the weighted criteria, sometimes the answers were like almost identical across. I mean, what does that say? Mary, your thing was a little bit that way. You decided to go with THP. What the hell? We'll go with THP. And when you listed the reasons, it made sense. But the matrices and the weighted criteria didn't show much distinctiveness. Is there something wrong with the way we evaluate the priorities, or is it more of a?
Well, that's possible. I think the way the criteria and scoring was set up
Is this being recorded?
that we were naturally going to have a pretty close
Oh my God.
grouping. But it just meant that
Please
we
not be
needed to
ahead.
have further conversations about what was really important to us. And the Class A, Class B thing was not something that was part of our initial criteria. And once we kind of figured out what direction we were heading, then the next step was, okay, we need to sit down and really have this Class A, Class B discussion and determine what was most important to us, and that's how the PhD ended up on top.
That's very good.
Well, that's sort of interesting because that ties into the issue about the vision, because you're saying it's important to have a clear vision of where you want to go in your plan, but in some respects, you're evolving a vision as you do the plan.
Yeah.
And I guess I've been in situations where I felt like, oh my God, I don't have a clear vision, but really, that may be a good thing at times.
I think that's maybe a good thing for start, but I really, in thinking out loud about this, how could a person or a utility plan without having a vision? You gotta know where you want to be in 20 years, 30 years, in order for you to plan, your path to get there. So it's very important, and it could be, the vision could be, okay, we would like to be a Class A in 2040 or 2050. That's a vision statement. If you do not need to get there by 2050, that's fine. It's not mandated, or I would like to have energy neutrality with the master plan, up to this date. Speaking of this, what I really just want to add one point of thinking while I'm here. It's very interesting to see Biosolids master plan, and a lot of them deal with energy too. And I think we're going to see in the future utilities maybe doing both master plan and energy plan at the same time, because really with the high strength waste, co-digestion, all that stuff, and the energy aspect of things, I think we've seen some of the clients, some of utilities are going into that direction, because you want to build something, you want to keep enough, if you have keep enough capacity, in what you build in order for you to be able to generate more energy, because they set the goal as a vision that in 20 plus whatever, they will need to be energy neutral. They're going to get off the grid. And to do that, the biosolids is how management is how they're going to get you there with the energy plus or the biosolids facilities. So I think there's maybe a shift toward moving forward where energy master plan and biosolids master plan or strategies are really going to be joined together.
I have an idea. I saw it looks a little bit like Jen is phasing out here. So the big elephant in the room is New York City that does a subclass B biosolids. It's like the worst biosolids in the universe practically, except maybe
You're there. You're gonna fix it in 3 weeks.
and whatever it does, it just moves. It moves all sorts of problems throughout the region. What do we
I did
want
not
to
say
do?
this. He did say that.
400,000 tons. It's going to be Jen's job to get rid of it and make use of it for recycling.
We use it.
400,000 tons to recycle. What do we want her to do with it? We are here. We're the brightest brains in the. We are the people here that can make her a hero for New York City.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any ideas for Jen?
Ocean disposal.
Don't hire a consultant.
She didn't hire Donald J. Trump Jr. and change the laws back again.
Change the laws.
Back,
That's
yeah,
nice.
change the laws
Yeah.
back. You know, drop those environmental regulations. We don't need them.
I think I'm starting with you. I probably won't have a lot of success, but I think we need to make friends with the people who don't like us.
Wow, there's a lot of people out there.
I
Jen.
think-
Oh,
I
yeah. When are you starting?
Trump
December 11th?
started with Putin.
No, but honest guys.
Like the organic smoke. Like,
Mhm.
you know, I know some people when I used to get home go and start talking.
It's going to be a process, you know. You got your, it's a big challenge. I think you got your hands full.
And I think, you know, one of the things that came up today was diversity and how it, in some cases, it makes sense to have a centralized, you know, facility. I think it's just too big, though.
Yeah.
Like New York has to have that.
I think for New York City, for New York City DEP, you have 14 plants, and it's different than looking for Cape May with 5 or you know, or somebody with 7 plants. We were so you just can't. Howard can't, yeah.
But
Can't-
60
yeah, so it's
watering,
very-
60 watering
so
stations.
you might have centralized for 5 or 4 or 6, or you know, you might have, but it's going to be centralized plus decentralized, you know, or combination of both.
I think transport's going to be a big part of it.
Transport to Texas. That's why Ben's here. He's going to solve your problem. We have Ben from Texas, and
Well, that was a really good podcast on Radio Lab.
oh yes,
Yeah.
poo poo,
Yeah.
poo poo choo choo. What are they called? The poop train.
Yeah.
Is that what they call the poop train? That was NPR? Was it NPR or something?
NPR is part of
Radio Lab. I love those guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really good one, and they kind of put it into perspective of what it actually the cost was. It's like 25 cents a person per year for the gas. You know, it's like, why not go back to that?
I think people are going to be woke now.
The difference between leaving here at 4 o'clock and leaving here at 5 o'clock. is
Okay.
3 hours of our lives.
All right, that's right.
Okay, well, thanks Mo for helping.